I thought we'd talk about some winners and losers so far of the MLB midseason. And I'll just take the elephant out of the room and say one of the losers, so you guys don't have to, has to be the San Diego Padres.
Yes, I wrote them on there. Yes.
I'm shocked. Wait, you're telling me you wrote the Padres down? I would never have guessed.
All right, Andrew, why don't you take us through your winners?
So I didn't know how many you wanted. So I wrote up to 5, but I can give you like 2 or 1.
Let's go with 2, I think. I think 2 is a good number.
Yeah. The biggest one I wanted to say was the Baltimore Orioles. I think the Orioles, I didn't see them competing just yet. I felt like they would be probably mid-tier. Now the AL East is actually pretty tough right now. I mean, it's a tough division. But Adley Rutschman, I was a little nervous because this was going to be his first full year. His first, technically, I guess, second year, because I think he was getting votes for Rookie of the Year last year. I was a little nervous because once pitchers figure out after they've seen a guy for a whole year, their second year is when, the sophomore slump comes, and the great players get out of it. And boy, this Adley Rutschman kid, and just watching him in the home run derby yesterday, he looks really good. I mean, he's got a great swing. I mean, something that I wish I could maybe replicate ever. He has just got he's just an amazing talent. I think his defense is probably his biggest issue, but I don't even think it's that big of a deal. So I really like this Orioles team. I think they did a great job of retaining Ryan Mountcastle, who is like one of my favorite players to watch. I think he's so underrated for what he can do. I know Hayes is having a great year. Their starting rotation, I was really worried because it was like Kyle Gibson, who is a shell of what he used to be, and he's been proving me wrong. He's actually having a good year. And I mean, their starting rotation, their bullpen, I was just watching the All-Star game. Cano, he was striking guys out like nothing. So this is a scary team. So Baltimore Orioles are definitely one of my biggest winners. Another biggest winner, I would say, I'm going to throw out the Texas Rangers. Right. I almost want to say the Marlins, but I think the Rangers are a little bit more of a surprise than I think the Marlins. Because if you look at the Marlins roster, you go, okay, I can see how that would work. It's just we look at the Marlins and we're like, well, Miami's going to mess this up somehow. But with the Rangers, I think I had said in the beginning, getting Bruce Bochy, although I loved him as a Giants manager, he's an old school guy in a new school game. And so I was very nervous of how he was going to handle it. We didn't know what we were going to see in Jacob deGrom, and we figured out that he got hurt again. And yet they're still able to overcome his contract. So I'm really very impressed with the Rangers. Bochy literally took what he did in San Francisco and brought it to Texas, where his guys don't swing and miss a lot. He gets a lot of guys who are putting the ball in play. And, something that I grew up with was you put the ball in play, good things happen. And that's what's been happening for the Rangers so far.
I would definitely agree with both of those. I think those are great picks either way. I am a little bit surprised, too, at how well Bochy has kind of turned things around in Texas.
I was so shocked.
Well, I mean, I just thought, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have been shocked. Chris Young did hire him, former Padres, so you have the San Diego connection there in some degree with it. But they've put together a really good roster. Obviously, they drafted well with guys like Josh Young being your third baseman. Their signees, Seager and Semien have panned out really well. So they've boosted it up pretty quick. So I'm
Garcia, absolutely raking right now.
I don't think they're going to win the division, but...
No, I think the Astros will overtake them eventually.
I think, objects in the mirror may be a little bit closer than they appear right now, and the Rangers would want to get with Houston. So, at least in my mind.
Clark, how about you throw out 2 winners?
Okay, so for my winners that I have, this one may be kind of obvious, but I feel like it has to be said. The Atlanta Braves. I think the Atlanta Braves are the juggernaut of the National League. I wouldn't be shocked at all if this is a team that goes back to the World Series now at this point. I think the Dodgers are weaker than they have been in probably the better part of 5 years. I really don't see rotationally a team that really gets the better of them. and certainly not offensive. Offensively, the Atlanta Braves are a godsend. I don't know if I've seen a more efficient, well-oiled machine. Not only just the OPS area and the weighted runs created plus, but these guys 1 through 9 that take great at bats. They constantly slug, hit the ball out, and do the things at the right time when they need to. I mean, they're 60-29 right now. They're basically making a joke of the rest of the National League East. I know Miami's 9 games back, but they're not catching them. And even more so, Philly's 12 games back. The Mets are probably more than that. They've been everything you could ask for. They have the National League MVP frontrunner in my mind in Ronald Acuna Jr. on the team. So I would say they're one of my winners. Another one I'll go to, I think this will probably be obvious, is a team leading the National League Central that I don't think a lot of people would have called, the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
What a year for them. I mean, to have basically every single prospect that you call up, whether it be Spencer Steer or Ellie De La Cruz, come up and just absolutely ball out of their minds is not something that necessarily happens. I know the hype with De La Cruz. I was big on him. This was the guy that I had number 1 in this all baseball with the start of the season. But what they have done, even this includes a team that's like doesn't have much pitching. Like they have like a couple guys. Lodolo's hurt right now. When they get him back, that'll be different.
Yeah.
I don't think they make a lot of noise in the playoffs because I think the rotation will eventually come back and hurt them. Yeah. However, from a successful rebuild standpoint, this is a team that is a year and a half ahead. I would love for them to be buyers at the deadline. I know it's not a big buyer's market, but if they could go out there and acquire an arm, maybe they get a guy like Lucas Giolito, that would be fantastic. The problem is I don't see them doing it. But regardless, if you're a fan of baseball, the Reds being good, I think, is kind of a cool thing because they're a long, storied franchise, a ton of really exciting players. I just hope that the ownership group there does the right thing and invests in them long term. So that would be my 2 winners in Atlanta and the Reds.
Yeah, good.
Drew, do you have anything to add on? Well, I guess I should ask Cody. Cody, do you have anything to add on?
Oh, mine's going to be super quick. So I agree with Drew that Texas Rangers are essentially a very, a team that was very surprising. Again, old Giants manager Bochy turning the team around. And I think one of the things that's surprising is the pitching, the run differential within the majors, the amount of home runs they're hitting amongst all their batters. I think that's just been the very, exactly what Clark and Drew said. That's been the most surprising. The second team, I will say, I think that's maybe a winner in all this, and maybe it's kind of a dark horse, at least for us, is in the NL West, and that would be the Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't know if anyone saw the Diamondbacks being this good. I mean, right now they're a game behind or a half game behind the Dodgers. But, I mean, there's a good possibility that the Dodgers can fall off at the last half of the season, and the Diamondbacks look real strong. I mean, they've got some, major pitching improvements. Their hitting is, improved a lot as well. So I think the question is, after the second half of this season, can they continue that? I think obviously is the biggest question, but I would say too, the fact that we've gotten to this point and they're this dangerous amongst a lot of the teams in the majors, I think is a huge win for them just in itself, because, there's probably been a competition between them and the Rockies over the worst team in the NL West. And now the Diamondbacks are almost at the top of the division. So those would be my 2 winners.
Yeah, that's
I respect the Arizona one. I respect the
Arizona.
Yeah. I will say I think there could be potentially fraudulent in the second half. I think you might see that. But
yeah,
that's what I was going to say.
Right now. First half winner, yes, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Clark. I don't see them sustaining it. I was literally just talking to my wife about it. I was just saying, like, they're still too young. Like, yeah, they got Evan Longoria. That's like their oldest player. I mean, everyone else is still learning the game. I know Ketel Marte is there, but I'm not as high on him as everyone else. And I think their starting rotation is going to start eating away at them, and their bullpen for that matter.
I think the bullpen's the biggest thing to worry about. And one thing I think is really telling is that they have a worse run differential than both the Giants and Padres at this point in the season.
Yes, they do.
By almost 20 runs to the Padres, too, which is ridiculous. But that says more about the underachieving Padres than maybe the Diamondbacks, but no here nor there.
So that's a good transition, Clark. Let's start off. Andrew, you want to start off with your losers? You want to give us 2 losers?
I can give you 2 losers. Ethan, you don't want to give a winner?
Yeah. Do you have 2?
Oh. No, I mean you kind of mentioned all the big winning teams. I guess I'll give a shout out to the Miami Marlins.
I was going to say you're missing one.
Yeah, I guess I'll give a shout out to the Miami Marlins.
Padres bench coach. Give him a little love there. I mean, Miami's been nice.
But more interesting conversation is on the Marlins right now. There's a player that might bat 400.
He won't. He's not going to sniff it. He's not going to sniff that shit. He's not sniffing it.
So I want to throw out the hypothetical that he does, because Clark and I have been talking about this debate. If he actually does bat 400, should he automatically win the MVP?
God no.
So.
God no. You can't just give the award because some guy hits 400. We're about to have a season where Acuna goes 40 and 80.
Yeah,
there's
too much going on that you can't give it to Arise.
So if he does that, to me, that's the equivalent of winning the scoring title in the NBA on the worst basketball team in the league. Like, it's great individual achievement, but it doesn't improve the team because the team is winning overall. And yes, in baseball, there's different factors, but like, I just don't think that you can overlook Acuna, like what you guys were saying, just because a guy has the highest batting average in the league, but is, lower in a lot of other categories. I think that's hard to convince people to say that he's the MVP.
I completely. I mean, there's too many
Hall
other
of
guys.
Famer, yes.
There's way too many other guys at this point. They're having way more impactful seasons.
Yeah.
Not way more, but more impactful seasons than Luis Urias just because he hits 400.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but it hasn't
Very
been done
impressive,
since Ted
though.
Williams.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. That's awesome. But I mean,
no player has ever done it since like early 1900s. Like, we're talking about something that hasn't happened in 100 years.
I get Acuna, it's really cool, but there's metrics and values that are far superior to just batting average, and a lot of other guys are doing really well.
Okay, so if they're that important, then why don't other players do it? They haven't done it in 100 years.
I think if you're saying it hasn't been done in years, you can make the argument that if Acuna hits 40 home runs and 40 stolen bases, no one's ever done that. That's history right there.
40-80?
Yeah.
It's a lot of
there's Luis Urias, again, it's so cool. It'd be awesome if Luis Urias at 400. I swear to God, I wouldn't even get in my top 5 MVP consideration.
No way you would not.
I wouldn't even put him top 5.
I
wouldn't put him top 5.
No, I don't know if I'd go that far, but
he wouldn't get in top 5. I can name you guys 5 guys.
Way.
I can name you 5 guys that could be over right now. Yeah, I could.
What's the 5 then?
That's just disrespectful.
Raul Acuna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Corbin Carroll. Juan Soto has a higher WAR than him right now. Fernando Tatis Jr., a better player than him right now. And I'll be honest, I could see someone else in Atlanta like Matt Olson or Sean Murphy. I would give
Matt Olson
over that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still,
maybe
they're not
Ohtani.
batting 400.
Ohtani.
Well,
okay.
we're talking
about batting 400.
I would not Arise. It's a great story. It's awesome. If he hit 400, I'll freaking be like, what a dog. But I'm not giving him the MVP. I'll tell you that much.
That was a joke. Just a hater.
That's not a joke. That's just
because you hate Miami.
No, I have nothing against those. No one even
cares. You hate people from
Miami.
Miami. We get it.
Nothing.
Not as much as New York.